Hi there, my name is Renee Hobbs, and welcome to LSC 531, Information Competencies for Youth at the Harrington School of Communication and Media in the graduate program in Library and Information Studies at the University of Rhode Island. Tonight's a little bittersweet because it is the last synchronous Google Hangout class of the semester. But I am very grateful and lucky that Ariel and Haimin have joined me tonight to, I don't know, celebrate, cry, I don't know, whatever. We are here together for our last class. And I know you are steaming your way to the finish line of this semester, so I'm very grateful for that. If I share my screen, I don't know if you can see this, but if I share my screen and talk a little bit about what we're going to do in the next hour or so, let's see here. We're going to the page that says synthesis. First, we're going to watch Catherine's brief YouTube comment for this week. Then we're going to have a little discussion about the most recent weeding controversy. Perfect timing for my my syllabus in terms of your reading about collection development in libraries with Amy Patty this week. So we're going to talk a little bit about the collection development controversy in weeding going on at the University of New Hampshire's Diamond Library. Then we're going to try to do some synthesis by means of a visit from a special guest. Dianna Locke is a media specialist with the Fulton County School District in Atlanta, Georgia. I met her last year when she attended the Summer Institute in Digital Literacy here in Providence, and she's up to all kinds of cool things, and I thought it would be kind of inspiring for you to reflect on how young adult school and public librarians are absolutely lifelong learners, and Diana's pretty inspiring, and you guys are pretty inspiring, so I thought bringing you together might be a nice way for us to end. And then, of course, we'll have time at the very end to talk a little bit about the deadlines and what to do and all that crazy stuff, so that's what we have planned for tonight. But I thought it would be kind of cool for us to start with Catherine's YouTube response. And I think you guys can see, can you see that on your screen?
Yes.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to just turn that on and we'll watch that right now.
So this is going to be my last YouTube reflection for the and I'm kind of sad about that. It's been a pleasure sharing my thoughts with you all asynchronously. So I wanted to say bye, first of all, but we'll wait till the end to do that. But last week I had the privilege of being at the Summer Institute in Digital Literacy, and I know we were all invited to Joyce Valenza's keynote speech on Wednesday morning. And I know I saw some of you, so yay, I'm happy we had an LSC 531 faction there. And one of the things that she talked about last week that I found incredibly relevant to what we've been learning all this semester is that she believes we must become citizens of the knowledge society. And I think that's very, very well put by her. And also, I think as librarians, we need to be curators of the knowledge society as well. It's our job to pass on that information, give information, curate information, and I really applaud her for putting it like that because I really enjoyed her keynote, and I thought that was a great main idea. Also, I have been finishing up my project this week, so I can't wait to share it with you all, and I can't wait to see all of yours. I'll definitely tweet the link to it once it's all set and ready to be published, and my reflection will be going up on my WordPress later today. So it has been an absolute privilege and honor to be in class with you all this semester, and I've really appreciated everyone's thoughts and projects and video reflections, Titan Pad notes. It's been absolutely very cool to be part of this class. So I hope to see some of you all in future courses, and if not, I will tweet you all and see you on Twitter. Thanks and bye.
Okay, so let's just see if I can go back to my page. Oh wow, look at all my new friends have joined me. Thank you so much. I see Laura. I see Jenny. I see Jane. And Hyman and Ariel are also with us. It's really been cool to have Catherine kind of weigh in on YouTube. And, from my point of view, even more cool has it been to watch your active participation in the Twitter sphere over the course of the semester. And so I have been really getting quite a lot out of your reflections this week, as many of you are actively talking a little bit about, first of all, Catherine wonders, how do we pronounce her name? I am assuming it's Patty, but I don't know about that for sure. I've never met her, so I don't really know. But I really appreciate your good efforts to reflect a little bit on, we've really encountered two different perspectives this semester on young adult services, and Amy Patty brings us the perspective from the librarian as manager, responsible for the collection, the building, the program, the weeding, the whole 9 yards. And that's quite in contrast to the work of Hain and Jacobs, who really address the librarian as educator. And what's awesome about the profession is that both of those competencies are so important. That's why I was really impressed with this flip grid from Jane, who notes that collection development in young adult is a political act. Let's take a look at her observation here. Really quite intriguing.
Hi, everyone. In addition to Hain and Kaplan's book being strictly about educators, where Patty's book is about libraries, I found that Hain and Kaplan's book was an edited book where they pulled essays from other contributors, and that might have made a difference in the way it read, in that it was a little more interesting, a little more diverse, where Patty is a singular person addressing a singular issue of collection development in a public library setting. I found that in Patty's collection development, she talks about it being a political act, which I totally agree about. With budget allocation, you have to fight for what you get, and the demands, especially on young adult collection development, you've got the demands of the patrons, but you also have the demands of the schools in terms of curriculum support and summer reading, buying all of those summer reading books to support what the schools are doing. All in all, I found that Patty is a valuable resource for writing collection development policy, and is a text I'd go back to again and again.
I really appreciated that great comment from Jane, and I was also really grateful for my Twitter friends who shared with me the most recent weeding controversy. I don't know if I told you my own weeding controversy, and maybe I did. I'm going to apologize if I told you this story, but I thought it was kind of good that you understand me. You know me now pretty well after having me for 10 whole weeks, but I bet you didn't know that I got elected to political office because of weeding. That is library weeding. And it was my youth. I was a young parent living in Harvard, Massachusetts, and quite proud and happy to live there out in the exurbs of Boston with the leafy green apple orchards and the beautiful countryside and my lovely antique house. And when my children were in elementary school, I decided if we're going to stay there, I might as well go check out what's going on at the high school. So I went over to the high school, and I went to the library, and the library was terrible. It was moldy. It was dead. The high school librarian, there was just tired. And I called my mom up on the phone and said, yikes, this looks terrible. What should I do? And my mom, the librarian, said, well, why don't you just do why don't you tell me how old is the collection? Like, help me understand what the state of the collection is in. And I said, I don't know how to do that. So she over the phone, she coached me through, you need to, count how many shelves there are and make a random, use random number generator to randomly select shelves to count, pull out every book on the shelf and make a tally of how many books are 20 years or older, and then use that to make an estimate. You don't have to look at every single book on the shelf. You do a random sample, right? As a researcher, I completely understood that, so I snuck into the library. I did a pretty detailed count of about, I don't know, maybe 500 books, and something like 60% of the collection was over 20 years old. I mean, it was unbelievable. Right? So I went to the librarian, and she says, oh, they don't give us any money. I went to the principal. He said the librarian's incompetent. It was just not good. So with my friend, I got really angry about it, and I hatched up a flyer, and I stood out at the dump. And I handed out flyers and said, you can't have a great school district without a great high school library. And I found a team of people who agreed with me, and we sat around in living rooms and drank coffee, and they said, you should run for office as school committee and fix this library problem. And I was young and foolish, and so I thought that seemed like a good idea. So I stood out at the dump every weekend for a couple of months until I shook enough people's hands that I got elected to school committee. And then I was promptly able to work with the school committee to get more money invested in that school library, to get the moldy carpet taken out, to get the new books put in, to basically fix the joint up a bit. And it was hard. And after 3 years of that, I was like, forget it, I do not want to be a politician. So weeding is a near and dear topic to my heart.
Can I ask a quick question about the weeding?
What's your question, Ariel?
Okay, so you mentioned 20 years old, but what about fiction? And when you have books that are, classic, or the same thing in nonfiction, when I have teachers that say, well, maybe they're going to need it for research later about something that's old, but it's more than 10 years old and it really shouldn't be in your collection. That's the problem I'm having right now.
Oh, it is absolutely fascinating, isn't it? And that's why when we look at collection development and weeding policies, we realize that there is no one size fits all. There's no one right way to do it. Weeding has to be responsive to the particular context and situation of that library and the community it serves. So it's true. Most library professionals will say weeding is the stickiest, most complicated political issue you face. I thought tonight we could have a little discussion about the topic of weeding and the controversies that it engenders. So if you go to the desktop, I'm starting my screen share to show you where to go. Go to the desktop. Let's see here where we are. And what I'd like you to do is, it says here, outward-facing librarians. Librarians need to be outward-facing professionals. Let's review this news story about the University of New Hampshire's Diamond Library's weeding of 36,000 books. We're going to watch this video. It's about 3 minutes long. And we're going to discuss these questions. What is the nature of the controversy? What are the strengths of the library's message? So you're going to be paying attention to what the library's point of view is on this. Then, what are the limitations of the library's messaging? Hint, hint, they don't do it, they don't get it quite right. What's wrong with the story that the librarians are telling? What other ways could weeding be explained to help build public understanding of why weeding is an essential part of library management. So what I'd like you to do is first watch the video and then put your answers to these questions on the Padlet wall. Can somebody click on the Padlet wall to make sure you guys can have access to it? I see it pretty clearly, but I want to make sure you can too. Give me a thumbs up if it opens as nicely on your screen as it does on mine. Thumbs up? All right. Beautiful. So Allison, thank you. I see your thumbs up. Let's do a thumbs up if you're ready to start watching the video. Thumbs up if you're ready to start watching the video. Jane, I see you struggling. When you click on that watch the video, do you see it? I'm going to unmute. I can't unmute Jane. She's muted herself. Okay, cool. So I'm assuming you guys are good to go. Let's watch the video, and then we'll play on the Padlet wall, and then we'll have an actual face-to-face discussion, all right? Let's begin. Okay, so after you finished watching the short news video from News 9, I'd like you to click on the Padlet wall and respond to the 3 questions that are our prompt for this evening. So do a little free write on the Padlet wall, and then we'll have an actual conversation about this complex and interesting issue. So let's take 3 minutes to do that. Hi, Diana.
Bye.
We're glad you're here. We're just finishing up our discussion about weeding and its controversies, so you can listen in while we finish this section.
Okay.
All right, take about another minute. Okay, it looks like you have, it looks like you've made actually quite a lot of insights in a very brief period of time here, so I'm very delighted to hear that. And reading these, oh no, Laura Hogan writes, my alma mater, right? So, yeah, clearly it's definitely stressful. So I do think that we can quickly run through a woulda, coulda, shoulda list for academic librarians, right? So you can unmute your microphones, and I'll ask everybody to give me a woulda, coulda, shoulda, because they just didn't handle this well, and next time they'll know differently and they'll know better. Why don't we go around the room and talk about what they could have done better? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I think one of the best things that, maybe that they should have done is just kind of consulted the art history department, since that seems to be the department that they were throwing the books out, and just say, hey, we're going to do this process. This is how it goes. You know, feel free to come in, look at the books, tell us your opinions on it. We'll take it into consideration. Just kind of some PR before going into the actual weeding process.
Consult the faculty. Number one. Okay, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Who's got another suggestion?
I'll jump in. They definitely didn't refer to any policy that they have about collection development or weeding. They just said that they were 20 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, could have
And
had
if that was the only criteria, when you and I both know there's plenty of remarkable books that do not circulate that are still worth keeping. So no reference to a policy and no reference to a complex set of criteria. Only reference to one variable, which is age. Great point. Who's going to do another woulda, coulda, shoulda? Number three. Who'd like to go next?
I will go. Actually, mine is supplementary to Jenny's, because in my library we did a little weeding before this last term ended. What we did was to send out an email to the whole community. It's like, free books, everybody come, because these we're gonna weed. Come take the ones that you want, so that, you know, whoever has something to say, they will take the books they want.
Excellent suggestion. Offer to give away books before they go in the dumpster. That's an excellent suggestion. Okay, that's number three. Who's got number four? They could have done this better. What could they have done better and differently?
They could have also been excited about what they were going to bring in instead. Sort of spin it of like, here's the exciting things that we're going to do with all this shelf space, to change the message a little bit, rather than just like, they were old, we're getting rid of them, you know.
Bravo. We did hear they were new science books, but we needed a science professor on camera saying, man, am I thrilled that we're going to have all these cool resources. We needed the science librarian saying, whoa, this is going to transform the quality of the science program. We needed a good news story to go along with this. Excellent point. Who's next? Recommendation number 5.
This is Ariel. my recommendation is a better job at public relations and marketing. Librarians are very good in regards to knowing what programs they want to do, but I'd say that the majority of libraries across the board suffer highly from issues with marketing.
Mm. Yeah, boy, Ariel, I totally agree with you, and I'll tell you one phrase really stuck out as being just bad PR all around, and it's like maybe media training for librarians might be good.
Just on that note, in regards to bad PR, as you know, I made a comment to you earlier, but I read something in Mashable about the Mideast crisis, and they say that Israel is losing the war in regards to social media big time. So social media everywhere, especially a library can be doing an awesome job, but if there's one thing on social media that's not going right, it can affect them greatly.
Yep. Now, you know, it's really the case that certain key phrases that this librarian used and certain key information was less than perfect. One phrase that really grated at me was the we didn't have enough time. We had to work under a fast schedule and we didn't have enough time to inform people. And I just thought, what a lame excuse that is. That only makes you seem more incompetent, right? And although I was okay with the idea of saying, you know, it's like a garden, you know, of course it is. The whole word, weeding, is so obvious. And I'll tell you, my husband and I watched this. He's not a librarian. We watched this and we got in a big debate. And he said, Renee, I know you disagree with me on this, but I think that's a terrible thing. They threw away 36,000 books. That's a terrible thing. And I tried to figure out a way to explain to my husband why it was a good thing. And I realized the power of metaphors are really huge, and weeding garden didn't seem to work for him. But you know what did work? He was struck by the art history professor who said, every book has some value, and books tell us about our past, and that's why they're important. Do you remember that line in the piece? Yeah, it was pretty powerful.
Just one other comment. They said it was only 3%. However, that 3% seemed to be so useless after the publicity that happened about negative. I did want to share one positive thing that I was told by my principal because of my concern right now for weeding. She said, sometimes you really need to do a lot of weeding to make things grow.
That's a beautiful way to put it, and I'll tell you one of the things that got my husband totally changed his mind, and I realized the power of metaphor. I said, honey, a library is not a book museum. I said, you know, book museums are important, and there are book museums, and some libraries are museums, but a library that's only a museum is not going to be used by people, and it's not being used by people means that the public will be less inclined to support the library, and a public that's less inclined to support a library is likely to take away financial resources, and so we get into a negative spiral. So I said a library can't be just a book museum. And that seemed to click for him because of that idea that the library needed to be a relevant space for contemporary users. And even though there's nothing wrong with a book museum is good, it's not what a library is. And so that, for me, that was really interesting. I started thinking a lot more about the function of a museum as a memory tool for preserving, as distinct from a library. And so I want to think more about how librarians can communicate the the message about weeding to make it more positive. So in the future, as you guys go into your careers and you find creative ways to communicate to the public about the value of weeding, you're going to ping me, because I want to pay attention to the way we tell that story seems to be really important. All right, final thoughts on weeding before we move on.
Yeah, I had an interesting conversation with a faculty member of mine at the end of the year, because we do the same thing that Hymin was talking about. We put out a free books cart in the last term of school, and we encourage people to bring in books that they've been thinking, that are on their shelves that they want to give away, and we just make it an exchange, so it's less like, we're getting rid of this crap, take it away. It's like, hey, we're trading books, isn't this fun? And then we put all the stuff that we've been weeding throughout the year on that book cart, so it becomes like a fun little thing, like a tradey thing, rather than a tossing stuff away thing. And one faculty member who was curious, she wasn't concerned about the weeding, but more just curious, because I'd done a big weed of the 1s and 200s at the beginning of the year, and I was able to sort of very excitedly tell her, yeah, we've seen a huge increase in circulation since I did the weeding, because all the spines are pretty and it doesn't look dusty and old, and the kids are actually much more interested in that area of the library since I did the weeding, and was able to pull up some stats of look at how much circulation's increased. Yeah. So that I felt like was a much more positive way to tell the story, rather than just out with the old.
Super, super. Thank you so much for sharing that. Other final words on weeding before we press on? All right, so you're going to ping me with your great stories about the communication strategies you use to make weeding a part of making an exemplary library collection. Now I am absolutely delighted to introduce you to Dianna Locke, who is an extraordinary media specialist from Atlanta, Georgia. I got the great opportunity to see her when I was at the ISTE conference, that's the International Society for Technology and Education. She wasn't at the American Library Association. She was at ISTE, where certain groups of a certain subset of librarians go to. But Dianna, one of the reasons why I invited you to come here for our final class is I thought, in a way, my future librarians, my current and future librarians who are off to amazing careers in school, public, and academic library contexts probably need to appreciate the amazing power of lifelong learning. That the idea is that librarians never stop learning. Well after they get their MLIS, they continue on this lifelong learning adventure. And nobody exemplifies that better than you, I think. So can you tell our students a little bit about your identity as a lifelong learner, and especially what you've been doing recently?
Can you hear me? Okay. I started teaching in the late 70s, so technically I've been in college off and on since 1975. I have taught elementary school, I've taught high school, I've been a media specialist for a K through 12 at the elementary building and a high school building. So I've had the full gamut of the library world. So as I finish my degree, I still take classes to help me keep me current with what's going on out of the world. And last summer I had the privilege of going to the media lab, which was wonderful, and it really, truly inspired me to do even more than I had before. And this year, I applied for the National Archives, and I was accepted. So this week, I've been at the National Archives picking out and through the vaults materials to digitize, and so we're making lesson plans for the government off of Docs Teach. So if you go to the archives, you can go in and see some of the lessons that other people have made, and you can go in and make your own lesson plans using primary sources.
So can you talk to us a little bit about why the National Archives is investing in digitizing the collection and thinking about the collection as a living resource to current and future students? Why are they doing this?
Two things, that we're going in the vault and getting things digitized. We're selecting things that as other educators that you would want to pick and put in for a lesson that you might design. Second thing is we're going in promoting primary sources from our government, from our country. So we're going out there, putting them out so students can have the opportunity to go in and look and find those resources. I've been working on the Tennessee Valley Authority, and to be honest with you, before I started this project, I really didn't know what it was, but I have really learned a lot. Different regions, I think Washington, D.C. has been working on immigration. Chicago's been doing civil rights, so they're going in and looking through the vaults, looking for things that teachers would want to use to help them teach their lessons.
Wow. So what did you learn about the archives that you'll be able to bring back to your teachers in your school and to your own students in your school library? What were some insights that were meaningful to you as you thought about making the connection between the work that the archivists do and then the work that you do in the context of your daily life?
Well, we had our topic, then I went in and looked in their, what I call it, OPE, it's an OPAC to me. We went in and looked to see what was there, couldn't decide if that's what we wanted. We wanted more resources, so they went in the back and they pulled books, pulled out materials. So we literally got boxes full of materials and we went through to determine what we thought would be a good source for other teachers to use.
And what criteria make for a good source? How did you decide which sources might be good for teachers to use?
Since I'm working in an elementary building now, I wanted to work on electricity. So it's Common Core, talking about primary sources, Common Core, sources of power, and then they can write on their opinion pieces or narrative writing according to that. So I picked material that I thought would be good and would meet that level for the second grade. I was working on second grade. There's not a whole lot of lessons for elementary, so that's why I picked that.
Cool. So there are resources in the National Archives that actually can introduce basic concepts of electricity to students even as young as 7 years old.
Correct. There was one picture I picked first, and there were people in the hills. You can see the log cabins, and the women were boiling water. From the picture, you can tell the steam was coming, and they had clothes in there, and there were other ladies beside it hitting it with rocks or whatever. Actually, that's what was. They were cleaning clothes. And so then I found some others when the Tennessee Valley Authority came in. They were promoting electricity because they built all the dams. And they had 4-H students going out showing how to use lamps, how to light up your living room, how to light up, how to read, how would you put the lamps in the room. So they had actual pictures. So they were wonderful for students to sit down and write about what they see and why it was important to bring electricity and why those dams were there. So we're bringing basic information and putting it out so we can make lessons and help with the Common Core.
Oh, and of course, what I can imagine is that some of those primary source materials do a wonderful job of helping us understand historical change, too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those photos, for instance, and the other sort of documents that help us kind of really visualize what it was like in rural areas before electricity came to the whole country.
Correct.
Cool.
And now my next one I'm going to work on is the Cherokee removal from the Trail of Tears. I actually came across a letter that was written from Andrew Jackson to the Congress stating the reason why he's moving them out. So you have actual letters and pictures from the time frame that you can use to put out.
Wow.
And I'm looking for a map to show that, but I found out that's in Fort Worth in their collection. So I guess I'm going to be going to Fort Worth before long to get my information to put out on my lesson.
What I love about your experience is that you are getting to you're getting to be like an archivist, you're getting to be like a historian, you're getting to be like an explorer, and it must really activate a lot of your own creative instincts as a as a designer yourself, right?
Correct.
So where did you learn to do this?
Well, a couple of years ago, I was accepted into the Library of Congress Teacher Institute. If you have not done that, I would highly suggest that, because that started me on the road of the digitizing, getting into the digital media world. And when we went in, we got to actually touch things that were in the Library of Congress, and I was aware from there what they offer in the summers. They offer different workshops throughout the year, and also the people came in from the National Archives talking about their process, what they do.
Wow. And so what mechanism do you use to keep up with all these cool opportunities for your own lifelong learning? Because as I know, the American Library Association does not require any professional development as part of a librarian's continuing education. That is not required, like, doctors have to keep up their certification and teachers have to keep up their certification, but there's no requirement for MLIS graduates to continually engage in lifelong learning. Where do you find out about these opportunities, and what motivates you to engage in this practice, since there's no external reward system, right?
Correct. But the reward is, I love what I do. I've been a media, I've been a librarian, I've been a teacher for a long time, and I truly love what I do. I love to go into libraries. Matter of fact, vacation, we went to Montreal. Where did I drag my husband? Into the National Archives in Montreal. We went into the big library there. So I love what I do. I love libraries. I love learning, and I love to pass that on to my students. Just the love of learning.
There you go. So that intellectual curiosity fuels you to learn more. Where do you find out about these cool opportunities that you just seem to glom onto and take advantage of summer after summer? I like to do Twitter. I have a website. I like to go out and blog. So it's just keeping up with what's going out there on Twitter, or what's going out on articles that have come out from various schools, colleges, and just the National Endowment for the Humanities also has wonderful programs in the summer for teachers. If you've not looked at that, those are awesome also. There's just a lot, and it's word of mouth too, because if I go to a conference, I sit with people and they talk about their experiences, and that also gives me ideas. Cool. So going to conferences connects you to other people who are active and progressive, and then that introduces you to opportunities as well. I'll tell you, when I saw you at ISTE, what was that, about 3-4 weeks ago, you showed me Mac and Via on your laptop, and I was like, whoa, and I promptly shared that with my grad students here, and our topic for the last week has been in the area of collection development, and I want you to talk to my grad students a little bit about what you've experienced in the last 3 years or so. I know you're moving to a job in the fall, so you're going to have a new adventure, but can you give us a little bit of your highlights and lowlights around collection development in your school library at the elementary school where you're working now? What I do is when I first go to a library, I pull up and see and print out what is the statistics, and then also what is the range and what's the checkout. Everything I can get in we have Destiny with Paulette. I go through that and look at how the age of everything, the age of the 200s, the 300s, or whatever. Then I'll go in there and start weeding to see what the dates are and add to the collection. Because usually that's the first thing I do, is to see what we have, what can we provide the students. Then it tells me from that I need to add more to certain fields. So, in this past couple of years, we're going more with ebooks. So I really have been pushing and putting out a lot of ebooks for students to use in the classroom and at home. So that's part of the Macavia. Got it. So that strategy is part of your job, just the same way that providing library instruction and supporting teachers is part of your job. Correct. Did you have, at the job you just finished this year, did you have the financial resources you needed to build a quality school library program? Yes and no.
the PTO provided money. We had Overdrive, which is an ebook collection, and that's different than what the school district provides. Each building that I've ever been at over the years, and I've been in different states as a media specialist, it comes down to what the principal wants to provide for you. So as the Common Core comes down, it kind of tells you what you have to purchase, but also it gives them an idea of how much money they want to give you. So it's kind of a give and take on that. You have to go to the principals and say, hey, I don't have enough money to cover this. I need more funds. Or you get creative in finding ways to get money to get more books.
Got it. And certainly having a good relationship with the principal is a part of the politics then.
Yes.
Right. Got it. Okay, so Dianna, do you have any advice for these young, talented, my students are amazing, and I want them to be the creme de la creme, nationally and internationally. And you're pretty amazing yourself.
How many are in the building right now?
Say again?
If you're a media specialist right now in a building, raise your hand. One. Okay.
I just don't have a video.
Okay. My advice is when I go in, like I'm getting ready to go into a new building, I always really promote the library, go out there, show everything that I have to offer them, be upfront, say, hey, here's what you can find. I have a website, I have a blog, I have a Twitter. I put everything out there, and I really show them what I can do for them to make their life easier. Because we're there to promote the library and to promote the teachers and the students in their role of what they have to do. So there's times when it's times when it's really hard work because they don't necessarily think of you as a teacher, so you have to really go out there and market yourself saying, yes, I am a teacher, I'm also a librarian, I'm also do media, but I'm also there to help you. So there's, you have to really go out, because there will be some, and I have had some say to me, you know what, you're not a teacher, you don't know what I'm talking about. And I'll say, yes, I have, because I have taught school, and I do have a degree in that, and this is what I can help you with. And you have to win people over.
I appreciate you sharing that, because we've been reading across 3 different literatures this semester. We've been reading across LIS, adolescent development, and young adult literature, and really thinking about the needs, the information and entertainment needs of young people from 3 different points of view. So I think it's interesting that the more you can identify with educators, the closer, the better the trust and respect bond that allows you to help them. Thanks so much for sharing that big insight. Now I'd like to turn it over to my students because I'd like you to do a little reflection on a takeaway that was useful to you, just the same way we did our reading takeaway. Dianna, I got only 6 days with Dianna last year, and it was lovely, and we had a lot of fun. We learned from each other. But my LSC 531 students, you guys have had 10 weeks now, so why don't we go around the room and you can tell Dianna a little bit about something that was useful, important, a takeaway that was a meaningful part of the course that you don't want to forget. Who'd like to go first?
Sorry, I'm confused. Are we doing something from the course that we've done this whole 10 weeks, or something that we think is specific to what Dianna was just speaking about?
Ooh, either or, Allison. Great point. Either or. I'm inviting you to do some reflection on the whole semester so that Dianna can get a sense of what you experienced this semester in the course that was meaningful to you. But you may also want to link it up to her advice, her insight, and her intellectual curiosity.
Well, I think, and it goes to what Dianna just mentioned, I think for me, the biggest thing is I see librarians as that connector and collaborator. So from this course, really making sure that you connect, whether with the teachers or with the community itself or with parents, along with connecting to the youth. So really trying to get into that teenage mind. I really liked how we kind of looked at the world of adolescence and kind of that awkward stage that they're in to try and understand where they're at, so then we can better help them and connect them to the resources that they need. And really, again, seeing that librarian as that connector and collaborator and reaching out to others, just as Dianna had mentioned.
Thanks for starting us off, Jenny. Who's next?
Similar to what Jenny was talking about, that sort of awkward stage, I feel like a lot of us have kind of felt like we're in that awkward stage ourselves technologically, being sort of deflowered or what have you, in terms of having to jump into new technologies that we're not necessarily comfortable with and present them, and not only present them to each other, but publicly on Twitter. I know has been a little bit challenging, but a good kick in the pants that I think I needed. I had not joined Twitter or Storify or any of those other things that I probably should have been, because, it's a lot of work to learn something new. So I think putting myself in the position that the kids are in to be forced into learning something new was just a good reminder of how hard that can be, and gratifying.
Thanks for sharing. Who's next?
This is Ariel. Two comments. One in regards to what Dianna was saying. It reinforces to me the fact that no matter where you go, you always have to, or no matter what stage you're at, you always have to market what it is you do. I had a conversation with another voc tech teacher, because I work in a vocational school, and I was feeling like, wow, I'm not achieving enough for the time I've been there. And I was sharing with her, and she said, you should be really pleased with what you have done for this time. And this is also what I feel is related to this class. We get to talk to someone, because being a library media specialist is, at times, is a very isolated job. Even though you are talking to different teachers all the time, I mean, teaching itself is sometimes extremely isolated, even with social media. So being in the class here and getting input from other people and collaborating is just, it's been very, it's been my privilege to be part of this group, and I appreciate, all the input, obviously from your leadership, Dr. Hobbs, but also from the classmates.
This group has been incredible at peer learning, and you guys have been in so many ways engaged in teaching each other and contributing and sharing with each other. So I think that's a great point, Ariel. Reducing the isolation and recognizing how learning is social, right? Libraries are social. People are social, and that intellectual curiosity is really cultivated by being connected to each other in one way or the other. Nice point. Who wants to reflect a little bit on a takeaway meaningful to you that can help Dianna understand a little bit about where you're at the end of the semester here?
Well, for me, one of the things that I've taken away is to start where they are, to start where the kids are. They are digital natives. They know this stuff inside and out, and I have to get to that point as well as a librarian and in that role as a teacher, and to be able to connect with them where they're at, and that allows me to just kind of find out where their interests are and be able to put a book in their hands or a resource in their hand that is meaningful to them. So, and to be able to collaborate with them on it, not just talk down to them, because I think somebody posted somewhere about, how kids are ignored or something, and they're treated like kids but expected to act like adults or something like that. I think, Laura, you posted something to that effect. And so we have to decide what they are. I like, as a librarian, to be able to collaborate with them and to, meet them on their level, and it's really cool. I've had some really great experiences with them on that section.
Love that theme. Meet them where they live, start where they are, connect to them as human beings. Thanks for sharing that great insight. Anybody else want to contribute to reflecting on your takeaways?
Yeah, I'll say a little bit about my takeaway being making the connection. The year end, we did a survey, but this is the faculty survey. Then the biggest thing we found out is they wanted us to reach out more. And we were thinking, we were trying to reach out. You don't take us in. So I think the key here is how do we find that way, the way to cut in the right way. So, you know, we have so much to offer, and they have needs. It's just we didn't find the match somewhere. So we need to find out the needs assessment issue too. You know, find out students or faculty whatever they need, and then we supply that.
I really love that point, Hai-Min, and I feel like for me one of the most beautiful and interesting and important parts of the course was when we talked a lot about kids beginning to build reading stamina and a love of reading and respecting kids' choices as independent readers and honoring kids' choices. I feel like educators and librarians have the exact same big picture goals, but we might use different strategies to get there. But that idea of what kinds of practices can build a love of reading and a reading stamina and intellectual curiosity, this is where we kind of come together in a very deep and organic way. And that isn't always the case when people are talking about standards and assessments and Common Core. We kind of forget where our deep synergies are, and I feel like when we discover that, then it's easier to collaborate. So, Dianna, I invite you to give us a sense of your own career trajectory and what you're looking forward to most about your new job, because I think it's important for library students and young MLIS almost graduates to understand is that you have a lot of value in the marketplace, and especially when you stay current, and especially when you're at the cutting edge, and especially when you're innovative, and that your market value means that you should, follow your bliss. What's your next great adventure going to be, Dianna, and what do you look forward to most about the 2014-2015 school year?
I always go back to where I started. I originally started in the library world at the University of Tulsa's library. And I periodically go back, and I just did this summer, and I go help out in the interlibrary loan, or I go and help out shelving books, or going in to help out at the reference section. I just like to keep current with what's going on. And as for the future, next summer I will be back in Rhode Island. I've already got my two buds with me. We're going to room together, and we're going to work on our projects together. I'm telling you, that was awesome. That was one of the best. That is the best place I've been to learn at a rapid pace. So my thing is, I like to go out and meet people. They inspire me to be better than I am, and then to also go out and find people who are mentors. Because I found through the years of doing this, I meet people and we keep in touch, and then we email each other back and forth. I have people in California, Rhode Island. I have people all over. I have people that call me and email me and ask me, hey, Dianna, how do you do this? And I do that to other people too. How do you do that? So always reach out. I mean, this is a field that people want you to succeed, and they're going to help you. And that's my goal. And this school year, I was asked to go to a different building. The principal called me and said, hey, can I tempt you to come my way? I have goals that I want to meet, so I said, sure, I'm up for the challenge. So I'm going to go there, and we've got a goal of what we're going to do. We're actually going to promote math a lot. So I'll be using StoryPie quite a bit and then putting things in together so the students can use it at school, in the classroom, and at home. I'm really into providing digital literacy for everyone. It takes a lot of time to do all this, but it's so rewarding when I have parents email me and say, Mrs. Locke, we really enjoyed that you made for them to help go along with what they're working on. So my thing is reach out, reach out, reach out. Everybody's there to help you.
Well, you know, it's a very nice way for us to end the semester. Jenny started off our takeaway session by saying it's all about connection and collaboration. A lot of times people will say to me, Renee, like, what's your most valuable resource? You know, and I say, well, it's certainly not my degree from Harvard, right? And it's certainly not my degree from the University of Michigan, although we do share that Ann Arbor connection, Dianna. So go blue. My most valuable resource is the network of amazing colleagues that I have encountered over the last 35 years who keep teaching me across my whole life. And I feel like I'm the lucky, my Rolodex is my best asset. And it is a treasure to continue to learn from librarians like you, Dianna. Thank you for joining us tonight, but especially thank you to my amazing LSE 531 students, Allison and Ariel and Hyman and Jane and Jenny and Laura, and all of you who are watching this asynchronously. You have contributed to a really great class, and I'm really grateful to that. So let's give a round of applause to Dianna. Thank you, Dianna, for joining us tonight. Really glad to have you next summer. And all right, so now students, we have just about 10 or 15 minutes remaining, and I want to make sure you're comfortable with what we're doing, right? So let's just see if I can go to the class home page. Where is that? I guess I got navigated away from it. I got to explore this Docs Teach thing that she was describing from the National Archives. That was way cool. But here I am back at our page. So really the three things that are kind of important for you to know at this point are that next Wednesday, I'll expect you to complete an Ignite presentation. An Ignite presentation is a particular type of event that is 20 slides, 15 seconds per slide. It's a very short spoken performance with slides. Your Ignite presentation should synthesize the main ideas of your final paper or creative project, and you should post a video to your blog and tweet. If you're kind of curious about how to do that, the students who were involved in last semester's class, 530, there's Jenny's, there's Stephanie's, there's Linda Diffenbach's, there's Sarah Kopka's, are all here, and each one of them solved the problem of an Ignite presentation in a particular way. Would anybody like to ask questions about the Ignite presentation that could be answered by someone who actually has created one? What questions do you have about the Ignite presentation, which is due a week from today, as a screencast, posted to your blog, and linked through your Twitter account?
I have not done one of these before, and I just saw from looking at that 530 that Jenny, you had, and maybe somebody else here. What order did you do it in? Like, did you write a script? Did you make the slides? Like, what was your order of operations? Or if you had to do it again, what order would you do it in?
Good question.
Sure. Well, I probably had at least most of my paper done before doing it, and then I kind of looked at the paper, and really, you can't really synthesize your paper for the presentation, so you really have to look at the points that you want to portray in the Ignite is what I did, and trying to keep it interesting too, so that people go to the end of the presentation. And I created my script first. So I did the script, and then I looked for either images or how I wanted to display certain quotes or whatever on the actual PowerPoint, and then Screencast-O-Matic is my best friend, and just did it, and it's very easy because it shows you at 15 seconds, so you can kind of monitor, so that way at the end you get that 5 minutes. And then because you have references at the end, I kind of made sure that people knew that that was the end of the presentation, and that whatever was extra was just the references. So,
how many times?
Good question.
Yeah, how many times do you think you have to actually record it before you actually get it right?
Well, for me, a lot, but that's just because I think there's a fine line between going fast and being clear enough that people can hear you, or can understand you. So for me, it was funny today. I was kind of practicing, and my son said, "Mom, I couldn't understand a word you just said." So that was kind of a okay. Obviously, I'm understanding what I'm saying because I've seen it so many times, but people aren't going to be able to understand it. So I would say, just on my own, I'm trying to really synthesize so that it's more quality than just as much as I can put in that 15 seconds.
Yeah. When I do Ignites, I often like to have an actual audience, Allison, because for me, especially because they're not seeing your face, they're just hearing your voice, right? So for me, if I have a person I'm talking to, I'm thinking about them and understanding and making sure I'm clear to them. And that helps me usually do it in 1 or 2 takes. Other questions that you have about the Ignite? Okay, so let's put Ariel.
Yeah, I was just asking, are we just posting it because we don't have we're not meeting next week?
Right, we're not meeting next week, so you're going to post it to your blog. You're going to tweet the link with the hashtag LSC531, and then what I'll do is I'll find your Ignite, and I'll put it here. So you can see that I've already created a new page for them to live. It says, Renee will place your Ignite screencasts here with links to your final projects, but only if you send a tweet with the URL and 531 hashtag to make your work findable. So that is a requirement. If you want it to be graded and if you want it to count, you have to make sure I can find it. Okay, so let's go back to the second big thing that's due next week, and that is your final paper or creative project. Some of you are also interested in my policy on revision, and that's available to you here. If you would like to, you can revise a paper that the grade for the revision replaces the original grade, and that revision is due before next Wednesday. So that is a great opportunity for you to benefit from feedback that you received and to make sure your work is exemplary. What questions do you have about the remaining assignments and work that you're going to be doing to meet the July 31st deadline?
I have a question about the final project. Earlier, when you were clicking at the Ignite, you said post your Ignite presentation with a link to your final project. Where does this final project live? I thought we were just going to send the document to you via email.
Yes, you should post it on your website, and you can upload it as a Word document or as a PDF document. Yeah, put it on your website.
Okay.
Right? Because then what you'll have on your website is you'll have your screencast and your document or your final project, and I will have them both in one spot there, right at the top of your website. Because here's what I'll do to find it. I'll go to the main page. Oh, sorry, I got to screen share first. So I'll go to the main page of the website, and I always go up here to class roster. Where is it? Right here, class roster. And then I find, here's you, hi Min, right? So I find all your work in one spot right here.
Okay.
And sometimes, I don't know if you've noticed, but sometimes I actually will make a comment on your website if I see something noteworthy. So occasionally I will comment on something that you have posted there. What other questions do you have?
I just have a question. This is more on, I have a lot of images that support my final project. Do you suggest I have them separate, or it just will be one very long blog? Because it's in 4 different stages, and there are lots of pictures. Because do you want me to create a slide share or something for each stage and then just put a hyperlink to a slide share?
You know, that's a really great question, Ariel, and I think there's a lot of ways to solve that. I think you should use the technology tool that is most appropriate for the project. So if SlideShare is most appropriate, use it. If Storify is most appropriate, use it. If a Word document with embedded images is most appropriate, use it. So a lot of what you've been experiencing in the last 2 courses with me is how to choose the right tool for the right purpose. So I have complete faith in my LSC 531 students to make good choices. And as you can see, I've designed the assignment so that you're free to use whatever resource or tool is appropriate to your project. That's really part of that's an opportunity that you have. So make a choice that works best to accomplish your goals.
Okay, it's just that they're there to support the written documentation. Okay, but thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Sounds really creative. Who's got another question? Okay, so we've come to the end of our course, LSC 531, Information Competencies of Youth. My name is Renee Hobbs. I am so delighted to have spent the semester with Allison and Ariel and Hai Min and Jane and Jennifer and Laura and all of you who are watching asynchronously. I hope you have a wonderful remaining part of the semester. I hope to continue to be in dialogue with you about your creative projects and your life after graduation. Let's give our famous goodbye wave. Thanks to everybody who joined us this semester for LSC 531. Bye now.